Hey everybody, Karen here, the Unpinned Creative at Unpinned Creative. In this mini-series I am going to be using the iconic little golden book, something that most of us will be very familiar with from our childhood and our children's childhood and our children's childhood. There are heaps of these around, lots to be found in op shops and on our own bookshelves. So I'm going to do a short mini series on how to turn this into a beautiful, functional, fun journal just using really basic supplies and junk. We're going to be using basic cheap supplies that most people, even non-crafters, will have in their home probably. So if you're new here, I'm Karen and I'm really passionate about inspiring people to make the most of what they have. I really believe that with a little bit of creative thinking, anything is possible using what we have around us. So let's get started. You saw my last video that was a little golden book journal flip through. I mentioned that I would be having some kits, so I've put together some kits. There's 10 available. They're in my shop now if you're interested, and this is the video that goes along with those kits showing you what to do with them. Because I get asked for classes and stuff all the time at markets, I thought this would be an easy way for me to do that sort of a thing. So I'm going to be using this book, What Will I Be? And I'll show you quickly the books that I have available in my shop. So we've got Bambi, the Animal Quiz book, Cabbage Patch Kids, Xavier's Birthday Surprise, The Musicians of Bremen, this is one of two that I've got, The Little Golden Book of Jokes and Riddles, Scruffy the Tugboat, I had that one I think when I was little, The Cow and the Elephant, Count All the Way to Sesame Street, The Little Red Hen, and that's the second, The Musicians of Bremen. So those are the kits that are available, and I will show you, I'm only going to be using what I have in the kits until we get to the decorating stage, and then I'll give you ideas on what you can use that you might already have to decorate. So I'll show you quickly what is in the kit. It is a kit of junk, basically. Basically what I've done is saved you the time and thinking to put all these things together. So you have the little golden book, of course. You have a little bag with some twine or hemp cord, a needle, 4 book corners and some tags. We've got 3 pieces of eyelet lace in various colours. The colours and everything are all different in all the kits. You've got a piece of gathered lace, a piece of small gathered lace, 4 pieces of wide ribbon, 2 pieces of fabric, a piece of cereal box. I'll show you how we're going to use that. We've got 3 pieces, 2 printed and 1 plain of scrapbook card. Then we have the pages, so they've got some newsprint, some wallpaper, some brown paper and music paper, and then some coloured A4 sheets. So, like I said, it's all junk, but we're going to turn it into something pretty cool. Hopefully. Hopefully you agree with me. Alright, so I'm going to put all that together, and we're going to start in this episode with deconstructing the journal. So we will deconstruct it, repair anything that needs repairing, and reconstruct it, and then decorate it. first thing you probably want to do is give your journal, your book, a bit of a clean. Most little golden books that are well loved, you'll be able to tell. So I went through all of these ones I think that I've put in the kits, and they are all in fairly good condition. I don't think there are any missing pages or tears or too much scribbling. So but when we get to the decorating stage, I will show you how to take care of all those things anyway. So just grab a wipe or a damp cloth and give your covers a bit of a wipe over, just to get rid of any grime. That's easily removed. And of course, you don't need to buy one of my kits to do this. Everything that I'm using, you will have or can find fairly easily. So your little golden books, as I said, heaps of thrift stores, op shops, people you know will have little golden books. All right, the first thing we're going to do is start with deconstructing once you've given it a bit of a wipe over. I like to keep the foil part of the spine because I believe it's, you know, iconic. So I will be showing you how to make your journal keeping this foil part. So you start by turning your journal over, and if you feel along that foil bit, you'll feel the staples that are used to hold the book together. Now what you need to do is grab a sharp knife. If you have a craft knife like this, that's awesome. If you don't have a craft knife, just use a sharp kitchen knife. Be really careful, please. We don't want any trips to emergency. And then you find where those staples are, and you're just going to make a slit in front or just to the side of those staples in the gold foil. Just a small slit, and then slide the tip of the knife under and peel the foil back gently to reveal the staple. I try to keep the foil as intact as possible so I can glue it back down later. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes this foil is too badly damaged to keep, in which case you might not worry too much about this, but I try to keep it. So once you peel that back, you should be able to see the staples under there. And we're going to do that at both ends. There are two staples and little golden books holding them together. Just go slowly. We're not in a race to the finish. And the making part of the process is my favorite part of creating. It's the actual process of it all rather than the finished product. Although I love seeing the finished project, I do enjoy the making part the most. So take your time over it and enjoy what you're doing. Once you've got the staples exposed, I take a butter knife or something that's not quite so sharp and just kind of wedge it under the edge of the staple. It is a bit tricky, so please be careful of your fingers and that sort of thing. And then you can push that sharp bit of the staple up and do the same on the other side. So hopefully you can see there's one side of the staple and there's the other side of the staple. Don't hurt yourself. So you can see those two staples are exposed. Now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side because we need to get those staples out. So make a slit very carefully. Push your blunt knife under the staple and start lifting carefully. There's one side. Now, if you are having trouble and you have pliers handy, like this, it is sometimes easier to pull the staple out with pliers. If you don't, just keep working it with your knife and it will eventually come out. Okay, so get your knife under there. Once you've started to lift that staple, you should be able to push that foil back down under the staple, or you might want to wait until you've got the staple out. And that's the other side. There you go. Some are easier than others. Alright, so we've managed to get the staples out with fairly minimal damage to the foil. Now you can open up your book, slide your finger under and push the cover back. You'll see that this book is missing a page and has a bit of this page missing. None of the books in the kits have missing pages, I believe, but I'll show you anyway what to do if you do come across a book that has that and how you can still make use of it. And then you just really gently pull the pages. They're actually glued onto that foil. So you just gently pull them out. And what you should have then is two signatures. That's two groups of pages that you can separate. Each group of pages will have each group of pages will have 6 pages. So 1, 2, 3, and then there should be the same in this one apart from that page that's missing. 1, 2, 3. At this stage, keep them in order for the moment, and we're going to work on the spine. Little golden book pages are not numbered, so I like to keep them in order as much as possible because I can't tell you how many times I've got really confused about what page goes where when I start separating them. So we'll just put those aside for now and we will work on reinforcing the spine and making it work for the journal that we're making. So now what you want to grab is a bone folder if you have one. If you don't have one, you can use the end of your butter knife or the end of a pencil. And what we're going to do is push down the foil in the spine, in the center of the spine between these two cardboard pieces, and flatten it out. So you do want to be careful not to use something sharp to do that because you don't want to tear that foil. So if you are using your bone folder, use the rounded end. Pencil actually works really well. And you can use your thumb or your finger. So have a look on this side. We're just pushing out this crease here. You might have a little bit of glue and pages left in there. You can pull it out if you want to. There, so when we've got that, we can pop that to the side and grab the piece of cereal box. So you want a piece of card, fairly lightweight, that is the height of the journal, of the book. This one is slightly too long, so I'm going to trim the edges off. I will use a ruler and craft knife, but you can use scissors, of course. I'm just going to take a couple of millimeters off and then try it. Maybe another millimeter off this end. And that's pretty perfect. Alright, then what I want to do is cut 2 slivers of this that is the width of this gap here. So it should be about 5 millimeters or an eighth of an inch, just over an eighth of an inch, 3/16 maybe. So if you don't have a craft knife and a board like this, just measure half a centimetre, use your pencil, make a mark at each end. Draw a line between those 2 marks and use your scissors to cut that. Like so. So we want 2 of these to start with. We might need another one, but we will see. And what we're going to do then is glue this down into that gap. So I will use white glue to do that. PVA, any type of PVA is good. PVA is actually a really good strong glue. I actually use wood glue, but which I find because it dries quickly and it adheres really well. But any type of PVA is fine, or craft glue, whatever you've got will do. It's just got to hold this cardboard in there. So I cover that gap with the glue. And then push one of those strips down into the gap there. Push it down really firmly between those 2 pieces of card, of cover. And then you can use the second piece and glue that on top. because you want it to be fairly flush across there. If you've got some overhang, just trim it off. I don't know how I ended up with overhang, but I did. And then what we want to do, so this part here between those two folds is now going to be the new spine of your journal. So that's how wide our journal is going to be now. Okay. Just to secure this a bit better and to stop the spine bending, I'm going to put another piece of this cardboard over the top. So you're going to measure between the two creases. It should be about an inch, just over an inch and an eighth, or just under 3 centimeters. And cut that little sliver. So again, use your pencil to draw a line and scissors if you don't have a craft knife and a cutting mat. If you do have a craft knife and no cutting mat, use a chopping board to cut on. Right, so we've got that. I'm going to glue that down. Just make sure it closes. Yep. So again, white glue all over this. Line it up at the top and bottom. Close your book to make sure it's in the right place. Push it down nice and firmly, and then we're going to leave that to dry. If you want to, you can pop that under a heavy book to make sure it dries flat, but otherwise it should be just fine. Okay, so that is the new spine created for our little golden book journal. So now what you'll notice is the journal is not as wide as the book was when we started. So these pages here, if we put those in, they're going to stick out a fair way. Lots of people trim them off, which is fine. I'll show you how I do it. I don't trim them off. I want to keep the whole page and I want to be able to read it. So I'll show you what I do to do that, and we'll work on that now while this is drying. So you take your two signatures and you should be able to see a line where the pages were stapled into the covers. So take your first signature, your first page, which is also attached to the last page of that signature, and where that line is, so it's running down there, just lay your a ruler across it and bend the pages up. And back and then you can fold them down. Now let's see, let's double check. We might need to make it a little bit shorter. Whoop. So that should be just about right, but it's right on the edge, so I am going to make it, bring the fold in a wee bit more, just so we don't have any pages sticking out. So I'll just lay my ruler near that fold line. And make a crease. Try and get it as straight as possible so you don't have issues later. If you have a bone folder, use a bone folder to make sure that crease is really in there. If you don't have a bone folder, I used to use a pencil before I had a bone folder, and you can do the same thing. You just put pressure where the crease is on the pencil and it still makes a really nice crisp line. Okay, so you can still see all the writing, all the pictures, and that is the first page. If I put that one back in there, you can see how much shorter it is now, and it fits into the journal nicely. So you just want a little bit of a gap between the edge of the page and the edge of the journal. That should be good. Right, so go ahead and do that with all of your pages. So what I do is, once I've done the first page, I leave it open like that and pop it to the side. Then I do the second one. I'll show you again. So where that, we wanted it a bit further in than where that crease line is. And as straight as possible. Crease it. I fold it to the back. It doesn't really matter, but I think it's easier to have them all going the same way. So that's the next page done. Crease it with my bone folder. Pop it on top of the first page you did. And now for the last one. So what you could do, if you don't have a craft mat with measurements on it to measure, measure the width of your bit you've folded over. It's almost 2 centimeters. Measure here, make a mark top and bottom, just like we did with cutting the strips. Line your ruler up. And create a fold. Crease it. Open up your pages. And pop them down on top. So this is the first signature done. All our pages are a little bit smaller. And you can see we have this little flappy bit on the back of each of those double pages, which we're going to do something with in a minute. So you can go ahead and do the same with the second signature. But while we are here and I have this damaged page and this page that's missing, I'll quickly show you how to do a repair to that, which is going to be easiest to do now rather than later on further through the journal making. Alright, so when you have a page like this that is missing a bit, and then a page like this which is almost completely gone, all I do is grab paper of some sort, newsprint or wrapping paper, or just copy paper, whatever you've got. So here I have some wrapping paper. And I'm just going to tear a piece of that off. And then I also have some baking paper, which I use to do inking and stuff like that on, and then I keep them to use in my work. So I'm just going to also tear a piece of that off. And then all I'm going to do is, so the tear was from this side. You can see the white edge where the paper was ripped here. I'm going to use the wrapping paper, I think, flatten it all, flatten the edges out as best I can. And then I'm going to run a little bit of glue. And you don't have to use PVA for this, you could use glue stick along the edge of that tear. This is just how I do it. There's probably a million different ways to do it. Decide which I want. If I want the silver printed side on this side of the page or the other side, I probably should have decided that. Seeing as this is a silver train, I'm going to put the silver on this side and then just cover up. Put it over that glue. Give it a chance to dry. Make sure it's all smoothed down on the other side. And I'm going to pull this page out at risk of forgetting where it goes. And then I'm going to draw a straight line across and a straight line down here. Use my scissors or my craft knife. And cut just inside that pencil line. So there we go. On this side we have a full page. And now on this side, once that glue has had some time to dry, I'm going to tear away the paper. And then if there are any bits that are still lifting that haven't quite got glue, like there, I'll just pop a little bit of glue under there. And stick it down. And then that is a full page again for that one. Now, I'll show you when we get to decorating the book about what to do around this edge, so you can still see the white of that page there. If you don't like it, I'll show you how to make that more muted into the background, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Alright, so we have that full page finished, and there. And now we are just going to do basically the same thing with this missing page. Because we have this flap, I am going to take the other piece of paper that I tore. Doesn't really matter which way this one goes. It's probably helpful to have a straight edge, and then that can go right in where the fold is. So pop glue right along that small flappy bit. And again, you can use glue stick, you don't have to use your white glue. Then I'm going to lay the straight edge on that crease line and fold the flap over. Just like so. Make sure it's all nicely glued down. That obviously wasn't a straight edge, but it doesn't matter. And then to trim this one, you can just fold your page over and use the edge of the page as a guideline. There we go. So like I said, you can use wrapping paper, copy paper, printed paper, colouring book page, another children's book page, whatever you like there. I've just chosen to use baking paper because I love texture and variation and stuff that creates interest, so that's why I use stuff like that. And that's our last page done. So back into the signature. There's that page, and there's that page. And now we're going to do just exactly the same as we did with the first signature to prep these pages. If you have little tears in your pages like this, you can do the same thing, just use a scrap piece of paper and glue over the top, or a little bit of tape of some sort, whatever you have on hand. That is the second signature prepped and ready to go. See, I folded this one a bit shorter so it's not sticking out as far. I mean, made that a bit deeper. I'm not going to worry about it, but if that is something that will bother you, just make sure that all of these folds are exactly the same width across there. Okay, so those are our 2 signatures ready. Now that we have them all folded, we're going to make them a bit more secure. So you will need a glue stick and a scrap piece of paper. Then you're going to take the first page, open it up, and run your glue stick down between those 2 creases that you've made. Like so. Then you are going to glue them down. So you have that. And you have that little folded bit. But between this folded bit, it's glued down. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you another one. So here is your page with the folded spine. We're going to open it up completely. There's one crease line, there's the other crease line. We're going to run the glue down between those 2 crease lines. Fold the page over. And remake our fold there. Okay, so we have that and this little flappy bit. Nice and secure. So keep going and do that with all of your pages. Alrighty, we're now ready to add some extra pages. Now we can grab the papers from the kit, put aside the scrapbook size paper and the fabric and laces and things, and the rest of these pages we're going to add in as extra pages in our journal. Now what we want to do, these ones are already folded, so I'm just going to check the size. We want to make them no bigger than these pages, but they can be smaller. And at this stage you determine what sort of look you would like your pages to have. I really like grungy and lots of textural kind of elements, so I tend to tear my pages rather than cut them. But of course, if you want a smoother, cleaner looking journal, then go ahead and trim with scissors or a craft knife. So I'm going to, the width is good for this. It's really just the height that we need to make a little bit shorter, but I am going to clean up this edge a wee bit. So if you're tearing pages with a ruler, put your ruler on the shortest side of the page you're tearing, if that makes sense. So rather than having your ruler here and trying to tear this little bit, put your ruler over that little bit, hold it really tight and tear towards the ruler. like so. It's much easier. Then you have a nice little strip torn off. And I want to make it a bit shorter, maybe a bit more even. So I'll take off maybe that much. And there's one page for our journal. So that's the newsprint. I'll go ahead and do the same with the other page, the wallpaper that we have. Going to fold that in half. Make a really good crease. Check it against the size of my page, and that fits pretty good. So at this stage you can tidy up any uneven edges if you've got edges that don't match up and stuff like that. Trim them straighter if you want them nice and straight so you have a clean looking journal. I'm not worried about it because I like messy. Right, brown paper, exactly the same thing. It's already folded in half, so I'm just going to tear it to the right. It's the right height, so I'm just going to tear it to the right width. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of the brown paper. So there's two different types of brown paper. There's this quite lightweight brown paper, and then there is heavier brown paper from brown paper bags. And it's just exactly the same process. If you have trouble tearing through two layers, if you are tearing, then just do one side of the paper at a time, because the heavier paper bag is a bit harder to tear. Otherwise, if you're using scissors, you'll have no problems. So don't worry about printing and stuff like that, because when we get to the decorating stage, I'll show you how to take care of all of that. So, yeah, you just go ahead, fold all your papers. I'll do that off camera. Same with your music paper. Fold. Trim it to size. And then we have our coloured papers, and we're just going to do exactly the same thing. Fold it in half. Trim it to size. Now, if you want a really interesting journal and you don't want straight edges and things like that, you don't have to fold your pages exactly in half. You could fold them off center and have a crease here, so you're going to have one long page and one shorter page. You could, with brown paper bags like this, I tend to like to see where there's already a crease in the bag, and then I might do something interesting with that page, like fold up the bottom and then fold it in half, and that's going to give me a short page but with some pockets and tucks. Or you could fold it, and so you can see here we have one short page and one long page. You could do that. You could then fold this side up, so you have your crease here with one full-size page, and then you've got one half-size page and a tuck spot. So just get creative when you're folding your pages about how you want them folded. They don't all have to be folded exactly in half. However, for one part of this project, you want at least 6 pages that are folded exactly in half to make the pockets that we're going to attach to these little flappy bits. So other than those 6 pages that we want folded exactly in half, that are the same height as the pages of the book, get creative with how you fold your pages. You could decide that you want your pages to be a bit asymmetrical, so you could do a fold like this, and then that goes into your journal like that. So you'll have one page on a diagonal, or 2 pages on a diagonal. That makes for a really interesting journal. You could fold your pages in half like so, and then fold up one corner, or fold down one corner, or fold both corners in, so you have a triangle shaped page. I've done that before. So just get creative with how your pages are folded if you want to. If you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to fold them exactly in half. So that is the next part of putting the signatures together for this journal. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so I have gone ahead and folded all of my pages, and I'll just quickly go through them now with you. I'm going to start with the 6 pieces of coloured paper that I mentioned you didn't want to fold, and these are going to be the full page pockets that you didn't want to fold or tear smaller than the book pages. Okay, so these are those 6 pages, so they are simply folded in half, and then I just tore a tiny bit off the top to make sure they are the exact same size as the book page. Doesn't matter if they're slightly smaller, but you don't want them to be any taller or any wider. And so they are what are going to be attached to these little flappy bits. So I will just pop those in there. So that one will go there, just so you can see where they're going in the book. And then these 3 will go in the second signature. Now for the other pages, I have rough torn my coloured paper to the size I need to fit in the book. So that was just simply tearing it with my fingers. I didn't use a ruler, and then you get this really raggedy edge, which I love, but I appreciate that not everyone does. So please use a craft knife and a ruler, or scissors, or a cutter, whatever you have if you prefer a cleaner look. So that's what I did with my coloured pages. Same thing with the wallpaper. I rough tore it, but I rounded the corners. So you can see these ones have squarish corners and these ones are rounder. And then for the lightweight brown paper, I folded one side in, and that will either become a pocket or a flap, and then folded them in half. Same with this one, I just did the flap on the opposite side. The one of them, the last one, because there are 3 of those in the kit, I simply tore with my ruler. So it has a rough edge, but it is straight, and I just tore that to size. with the heavier paper bag, brown paper, I simply tore it again with the ruler, using the ruler to size. And then for this one I just folded over the top. There was already a crease there, and that's going to become a little tuck spot. This one I folded one end in again where there was already a crease, and made this side of the page shorter than this side. And this one I just folded up the bottom, so these are going to be two little tuck spots, and tore around the edge with the ruler. For the music paper, I just tore it down one side. I was going to tear these edges, but you can see that they have a lovely brown patina from the age, and I wanted to keep that. So I've only torn the one edge where I needed to trim it to the correct height. That's what I did with those. And then with the newsprint, again, I just tore it using a ruler to get it to the correct size. So go ahead and have fun with that, thinking about what you could do and how you could make your pages more interesting just with the folding and tearing. And now I'm going to show you how to pop these full page pockets in. Oh, one more thing, any bits that you tear off your pages, don't throw them away just yet, because we might use those later. Okay. So what you'll need for popping these pockets in is your glue stick or white glue. I prefer glue stick, it's just a bit easier for repositioning if I get the positioning wrong. I'll start with this first page. And all we're going to do is pop glue on this side of the flap. Actually, before we do that, what you might want to do, so the pocket is going to be adhered like this. And so that we know it's a pocket, or remember it's a pocket, or the recipient remembers it's a pocket, I'm going to put a little divot in here. Now there are different ways you can do this. I use a circle punch usually, but I appreciate that not everyone has one of those. So what you can do is just fold your paper, make a tiny little crease where the center is. That's going to mean that we get our little divot in the right place, and then just eyeball it, or if you really want to be precise, you can measure an equal amount on either side of that divot, so say 1.5 centimeters either side. Make a little mark, maybe go down 1 centimeter, make a little mark, and then just use your scissors to cut a little semicircle. Like that. Not very straight, but you can take your time and do it a bit straighter if you want to. Or if you do happen to have a circle punch, I'll show you how to use that, how to do that on the next one. It's fairly self-explanatory. Okay, back to gluing this on. So we want to pop glue on this side of the flap. So I put a piece of scrap paper down and then just run my glue stick right up to the edge. Make sure you've got lots of glue and it's completely covered. Then you are going to take the back side of the paper, so the side that doesn't have the divot, line it up with the crease, make sure it's pressed down really well, And then for this side, you're going to run some glue along, not that edge, along the bottom. So I'm just going to use my PVA, but you can use your glue stick. It doesn't really matter. Just along the bottom edge like that. Run some glue along this side of your book page flap. And then we're just going to press it down. Am I still on? Sorry, I went a bit wonky. Wipe up any excess with a damp cloth or a wipe. And there you have a little pocket. So you can see that I didn't go cut my paper exactly the same height, so you're going to have a little bit at the bottom here. Doesn't really matter too much, still works as a page. I am a messy crafter. I'm sure I've said that before in my videos. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that with all of the flappy bits in our first signature. So what you'll end up with is you'll have 2 book pages and then a full page pocket, so 3 pages. Okay, so we'll pop that to the side. Here is the next one. So we will make a little divot. So if you have a circle punch, you want to mark your center again or eyeball it, it doesn't really matter. Line that up with the center of the punch and about the halfway mark or just before, depending on how deep you want your little thumbnail to be. This punch is not very sharp, so you can see it doesn't cut all the way through because I've used it a lot. And there you have your little thumb notch. Thumb notch, I believe, is the technical term, not divot. You all know what I mean, hopefully. Alright, so again, we're going to put glue on this side of the flappy bit. We are going to get the back of that pocket, so the bit without the divot in it. Line that up with the crease and the top and bottom. Pop some glue along this bottom edge. Pop some glue along this top book page flap. And then fold it over. And there's our full page pocket. So again, you have 2 book pages and your pocket on the back. So when you're popping that into your signature, this is the first page we just did, it goes in between the 2 book pages. Okay, so not here, you open up the 2 book pages and that page goes in there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that with the rest of the pockets. So just make sure when you're putting the thumb notch divot in that you're doing it on the right side of the fold, not the left side, the right side. Okay, so that is the full page pockets done in both of our signatures. Now we'll go ahead and pop the other pages that we've prepared in. So what we're going to end up with is 3 signatures. So you're going to have the first signature with book pages and the third signature with book pages, and then you're going to have a middle signature of blank pages. That's just how I like to do it. I prefer 3. I prefer an odd number of signatures, but it doesn't matter. If you just want the 2 signatures, that's fine. You go ahead and do that. So what I like to do is put a blank page in between the book pages. So for example, like that. And I like to mix it up and have different types of pages. So I start with a blank page between the book pages, and then I'm going to add some more. I might put some wallpaper in there. Brown paper. Do the same on this one. So it's really up to you how you choose to put your pages in. There's no rhyme or reason, it's just what feels and looks good to you. See, I don't like this, so I'm going to take that out. Swap it with that. Okay, so 2 signatures. And then I might start putting my middle signature together, and I'll start with my middle signature. So I might use some music paper, brown paper, some more coloured paper, another sheet of music paper. And that's the middle signature done. So I know you're possibly thinking, but especially if you're not a junk journaler and haven't done this before, but what can I do with this music paper, Karen? I can't write on it because it's already got printing on it. I will get to that in the decorating stage. The decorating stage will really transform these pages, so hang tight. Alright, so we have our first signature, our middle signature, and our second signature all ready to go. Let's pop them in our cover and see how they fit. And that fits quite nicely. So don't be worried that it looks a bit skinny. Looks like it's not full enough, because once we start decorating, that's actually going to get fuller. And you'll understand why we needed to leave room in there. So for this video, I think we will leave it there. I don't want it to be too long and boring. So you can see that we have our journal prepared and ready for decorating and finishing. In the next video, I'll show you how to finish off this cover, make it a bit prettier, and stitch in the journal pages, and then in the third video we will get to decorating. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for your interest in what I'm doing. If you are interested in getting a kit and having everything that I'm using today ready for you, they're on my website, which is unpinnedcreative.co.nz. I've got it in the description box as well, and I'll see you in the next one.